Hi, I'm Bob,
And I'm Sherry.
and this is Mostly Politics with Bob and Sherry.
And tonight we have the pleasure to interview Mr. Ed Brosky. He is running as a Republican candidate in Pennsylvania District number 27. And he's running against incumbent Democrat State Representative Dan Deasy Jr. Welcome, Mr. Brosky.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Ed, can you tell us a little about yourself and your background?
Yeah, I can. I'm 68 years old, and I decided to dust myself off and come out of retirement to run for state rep in my district, which I'm very proud of, and have lived there my entire life. And my background is quite extensive. I worked 14 years as a child care specialist, dealing with sexually abused children, mentally abused, physically abused, starved, trafficked, abandoned, for both the Holy Family Institute and the Bradley Center. And my responsibility was to try to, encourage them to move past what had happened, not to forget about it, but to move past it and realize that, they were good people. They are good people. That what happened to them was no result of anything that they did. And then to either try to reunite them with a family member or to put them into the foster care system with with a good family. I also spent 2 years as a child care worker at a daycare. I had the 2 to 4 year olds, and I want to tell you that that's my most favorite group. Even though I love all the kids, the 2 to 4 year olds were really fun to work with. And again, the same type of thing. Although these children were not, abused in any way, but again, to mentor them, to teach them life skills, motor skills, teach them to, grammar and other things of that nature. I also worked at Life's Work as a job coach. I would go with elderly people that, again, might have been autistic or have other, mental health issues, and try to mainstream them into society by being, a productive employee at either Giant Eagle, Shop and Save, or other retail places. Learn their job, teach them the job, and then, check in on them intermittently. I spent 18 years as a fast food manager for KFC. I also owned my own business too. I had a bar restaurant in Ambridge, Pennsylvania, and the chief of police, didn't like me, didn't like my clientele, so we butted heads, and eventually it led to a lawsuit that I ended up winning. And also, I've coached high school football, was a strength conditioning coach for all the varsity sports, boys and girls. So I know a great deal about the differences in development in different ages between boys and girls. And I'm sorry, they are boys and girls. This whole thing with identifying and regendering is nothing more than indoctrination. I know that from my experiences, dealing with children that were sexually abused. It's indoctrination. We need to allow kids to be kids for as long as possible, keep them innocent, and let them develop at their own pace rather than force feed them some sort of an agenda that has some kind of money tag attached to it at the end. This is all about money. It's money for big pharma, for those transition drugs. Joe Biden, again, boasted that we beat big pharma. No, we didn't beat big pharma. They whooped us in COVID, and now they're going to try to whoop us again with the transgendering, naming, and everything else. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to be long-winded, so I'll end there and let you guys proceed with governing the shows.
So you have mentioned you work with children as a coach, and you talked about the gender identity issue. There was a bill that was proposed and sponsored by Republicans in the House. It's a Fairness to Female Sports Act, and I think your opponent voted against that. Tell us about some of your thoughts on that.
Well, that was a bad call by him. Very bad call. Yes, when kids are younger, before puberty, boys and girls playing together, I know from my own experience of being a child that sometimes girls are better athletes than we are at that awkward stage before we reach puberty. But once we reach puberty and those changes occur in the body, men or boys will again leapfrog a girl in both strength, speed, endurance, and even mental intensity. So it's very unfair, to once they reach high school, to say that a boy who identifies as a girl, is going to be able to compete against a girl, and the girl's going to have a chance for success. It's not going to happen. The genes, the DNA, everything that changes, in the body once puberty occurs, eliminates the fairness in it. So he made a very bad call there. But again, his kids are grown. It's not going to affect him. But it's going to affect other people that have daughters that may want to get into college, but because they're competing against a boy, they're going to be overlooked. Again, that's identifying as a girl. When you get to the collegiate level, it's going to be a big disparity. Just look at Leah Thomas. She's dominating, or he's dominating against women when he was the 600th or 700th ranked boy or man, before he made the transition. So it's not fair. It's a bad call. It's going to affect them not only physically, psychologically. It's going to affect their social life. There are so many things that are unforeseen at this point, but are going to manifest themselves because of that. Bad call.
Ed, what do you see as the problems in your district, or what are voters telling you they're most concerned with?
Well, again, I've spoken to over 4,500 people to this point. I started mid-July, and I've been to all the areas: Crafton, Ingram, the West End, Elliott, Greentree, Scott, Heidelberg, Banksville, which are all part of the district. And there's been three common themes, all right? Inflation is one, crime is the second one, and education is the third, all right? In the different areas, we'll say Crafton and Ingram, they want to know why we can't get businesses to come into that area to, again, generate revenue, tax revenues, also to generate startup jobs for kids, and then again, just, the travel time from that area to either, Robinson, or if they want to go the other way up McKnight Road. So it's an inconvenience. All right, crime is very big because, again, they see what's happening. They see the Democrat platform being one where they're bringing down the numbers of crime by not charging crime. Again, Dan Deasy has voted against every legislation that could impact crime, but you have to charge the people. He voted against stiffer penalties for people that commit crimes with a firearm. He voted against stiffer penalties for people who spit on police officers. So I would like him to know how would he feel if somebody walked up and spit in his face because of the votes that he's made that have put people in jeopardy. All right. The other thing, too, as it relates to crime, is those two parks, Sheridan Park and Ferrywood Park, that are basically closed for everything except swings. All right. There are swimming pools there that are closed. There are also community rooms there that could be used. Kids need to have recreation programs and recreation facilities to go to in the summer, and the parents need that too, because, again, it gives them a little reprieve from dealing with the kids, and it also gives the kids an opportunity to get out from under mom and dad's, oversight, so that they can be kids and develop their own social skills and their own little groups and identities and things of that nature. Okay, I would personally, because of my background, see over that project personally. I would put myself in charge of that and use the connections that I have from being in child care, as well as a person that I met down there at the Jasmine Center, in Sheridan. Joey Porter actually started that with the Steelers, and he has a gentleman down there that runs it because Joey has a special needs daughter that just grew out of all the other programs. Excuse me, and now as being an adult, needs somewhere to go. She'd be a great mentor, all right? And I would help develop the programs that we would institute. But before doing that, I would also, have a community meeting and let the parents know, here's what we would like to do. What are your feelings on it? Because again, this is a local seat. I am supposed to listen to my constituents. I'm supposed to do what the people in my area, in my district want, not what my party wants. Dan Deasy does nothing but rubber stamp whatever the national party wants. He is nothing but a party hack. It is time for him to go. He is not doing what's best for the community. He's only doing what's best for Dan Deasy and Dan Deasy's family. It's time for him to go.
Can you elaborate on education? You named that as one of the top three. What are the people's concerns about education?
Well, their concerns center around the fact that too many kids can't read when they get to a certain age. So they get frustrated, and then they start to withdraw, and then they start to become a problem in school. The same thing with math. The math scores are done. All right? Stop teaching kids about things that are irrelevant as it relates to their physiological development intellectually. All right? We need to teach them reading, writing, and arithmetic, because you only have a certain time. Kids develop differently. They develop age 0 to 2. Watch a newborn. Watch how quickly a newborn develops physically. And then they start to notice things. The other thing kids at that age do, when you speak to them, they touch your face. All right? The reason they're touching your face is they're learning how to form the words. So that's the type of interaction that we need to have. The next period that they start to develop is 2 to 4. And in that span of time is usually when their personalities are developed. And again, that's when they either start to be somebody that is a leader or somebody that enjoys going along with the crowd. When I worked at that daycare center, I could always identify who the leaders were. Hey guys, here we're going to do this. And then the followers. So we used to do a thing where it was called group play or individual play. When you were in group play, that's where you seen who the people were that started to direct kids, directing them. No, here, you play with this dinosaur, I want the horsey. No, I want the horse. No, you don't. You're going to play with it. So then, you let them do that, and that's where they learn to problem solve. And then the last time is the 4 to 6 year olds. Okay, by that time they start to think that they know more than you, and then you have to temper that. So these are all the things that they're missing by not having a summer program. Dan Deasy's solution, I'm going to take $3.5 million and build another industrial park and rip out a recreation area and a pool, and then they have to go either in the city to go swimming, which means getting on a bus, or the parents got to get them there. If that's not convenient, then it's a tug of war. He's making everything difficult for parents, except for him and his wife and his kids, because they're grown. And I'm sorry, you have to take care of the people that elected you. I'm going to do that, and I'm going to have a hands-on approach to that. I've talked to so many people. They are hungry for that. They are thirsty for that. And it doesn't depend on the color of their skin. It doesn't depend on how much money they have. They're a family. And as I said, family is the most important thing. And this being a local seat, okay, this being a local seat is that I have to listen to them and address those problems. The other thing that we can do with those two facilities, and again, even with, if I can get the Jasmine Center to go around, is to provide daycare for the parents, where they know they have somewhere to drop their kids off if they have to go to the store, they have a doctor's appointment, or they have to take their parents, the elderly. Society is judged by how it treats its very young, its very old, and the disabled. We are not addressing those three areas of society in this district as we should be, as aggressively. I'm not worried about equity, okay, because equity just means that you again are picking winners and losers, okay, winners and losers, just like they did with the pandemic. And again, we can have joint daycares at both places that, again, where they can, drop their kids off. And again, that's probably something different that other towns already have, because again, they have people in representing them that are looking after, again, the family's interest. We don't have a society without strong families. We don't. You have anarchy, you have chaos, which is what the Democrat Party is trying to do in every city, town, and borough, because chaos benefits them, does not benefit families.
So, Ed, you have mentioned about crime, and you also mentioned that society is judged by how we take care of young and take care of our old. There was a bill sponsored by the Republican Lieutenant Governor Kerry DeRosa, which is to prohibit caretakers at senior citizen homes to sexually assault senior citizens. That will be your parents, some people's grandparents. And I understand Dan Deasy Jr. has voted no to that. He was one of 38 Democrats voted no. Now, that bill has passed. The government signed into law. What do you think about that he voted no for prohibiting caretakers sexually assaulting senior citizens?
Well, again, I don't understand the reasoning behind that. I don't understand the emotion behind that. If you have grandparents, which, again, I don't have grandparents anymore, and both my parents have passed. Both of my parents passed away in our homes, all right? And when my mom was in hospice, or she was at Manor Care or one of those, she hated it there. It's not that she didn't get, what she needed. It's the fact that you're basically neglected there. And that's hard enough. But, elderly abuse and sexual abuse is just, it's despicable. I mean, it makes me sick to think that somebody could do that to the elderly. I've seen them, and I know that they've done it to young kids, because I work with that. That's indefensible. I'm sorry, it's indefensible. But again, that is also part of the Democrat Party platform. I'm going to tell you right now that everything that's associated with the Democrat Party, I believe that D stands for death. Okay? They'll kill the young with abortion. They'll kill the old by sticking them in a nursing home during a pandemic, where they know the people that were most susceptible to catching that virus and dying were the old and the people that were diabetics. They also do not care about the military. They don't care about the police. They'll willingly sacrifice. They don't know, we didn't vote for defunding them. No, that was the Republic. No, what they do is they jam stuff into bills, and then they'll name it or caption it, protect the blue line, but underneath they have so much crap in there that you can't go for, because it's all social engineering or social justice. So when the Republicans vote against it, they go, see, they're voting to defund the police when it's really them. But they will sacrifice anybody for their social agenda, whether it's climate change, transgendering, CRT. You can never underestimate the demons in that party. And when I say the party, I mean the party leaders, because I've run into many good Democrat men, women, and families that are going to vote for me because of what we're going to provide or try to provide for their families. But it's the national party. They need to be, through term limits or some fashion, dismantled. That's who we need to defund and deregulate, is the Democrat National Party.
Ed, why do you think you can do better than Dan? I mean, he's been in office, 11, 12 years now? So what can you do better than him?
Well, he's been there 13 years. And already, by knocking on the doors, I've done more than he's ever done in that capacity. By knocking on the doors, the people know that they have my ear. Okay, they have my ear. They also know that, Dan Deasy has never knocked on their door, panders to them, shows up at an event if there's going to be a lot of people there, but won't inconvenience himself or even understand what the benefit is to actually knocking on doors and talking directly to the people and giving them the opportunity to either say, hey, you're doing a good job, or to vent. Most of the people have been venting to me about, oh, well, nothing's going to change, and this and that, and all of that. I went to an event that he had scheduled last week, and I got there, and it was at the senior living facility on Wabash Avenue. He canceled it, and they didn't know till they got there that day. But yet he talks about being a man of the people. I've also seen this sign, and it says integrity, it says leadership, and it also says I forget what the integrity, leadership, and experience. Yes, he has experience. He has experience spending our money on whatever the Democrat Party tells him to. Integrity, I will tell you that vote with the elderly people does not show integrity. That vote for the Fairness in Women's Sports Act does not show integrity. And back during the pandemic, when his son was playing at Canavan, he told the parents, because I had a friend whose son played with him, at a booster club meeting that he would not vote for mask mandates at outdoor sporting events. Well, initially he did. He voted against it. When Wolf vetoed it and sent it back for a vote, he changed his vote. If you have integrity, you have conviction, and you stand by your convictions. He didn't stand by it. He used it as a way to hide behind, well, Wolf vetoed it, so, I had, what could I do? That's not integrity. That's squishiness, okay? And leadership is what I'm doing. I'm out there meeting the people, taking the slings and the arrows, okay, from everybody. He's not. He's hiding behind, reports like this that he thinks are going to, because, I voted for a bipartisan budget with historic funding for this, that, and everything else. But again, it just goes more towards social justice and everything else. Dan Deasy goes with the flow of, again, whatever the Democrat Party platform is, because he just wants to keep getting reelected. And he knows to get reelected, he needs to pander to the party, and he needs to pander to certain groups. He's on that liquor control board because most of his donations come from two law firms that represent liquor licenses that are either being sold or that are currently there, and that's where he continues to get his money. It's the same thing with the with the liquor stores, and he talks about unknown things if we privatize the liquor stores. I want to privatize the liquor stores because, again, just as you had anchors whenever the malls were built, any place that has a liquor license, whether it's Sheetz or Get-Go's or whatever, that brings in a lot of walk-in business to buy sandwiches, milk, eggs, and whatever. If you privatize a liquor store and you use that as the anchor to draw other businesses, it's going to increase your tax revenue base. It's going to increase your walking traffic. And again, when you buy anything at a liquor store, you have to have a valid driver's license, because you can't buy anything unless they swipe the license and it says that you are of age and that it's a legal license. It's not suspended or everything. If you have a suspended license, you can't buy cigarettes or liquor. And so I don't want to hear people say, well, it's going to bring crime. No, it's not going to bring crime. It's going to bring business revenue, and it's going to bring foot traffic into areas. And, those are just some of the things that I want to do as it relates to inflation, to bring down costs and to increase traffic for other businesses. I mean, Giant Eagle, asks to see the IDs, and that's just the way, that it'll be if you privatize it. Now, those people that work there, if I'm going to buy a business and there are people that have the experience in that. I'm going to offer them the first jobs. Okay, it may not be the cushy thing that they're getting by being a ward of the state, but again, our country is built on competition. They're trying to remove that, and I'm not for that. I'm for meritocracy. I'm for the merit system. If I have to prove myself to the people out there to represent them as their state rep, then every employee should compete for their job, and they should talk about and work toward excellence. Whether you're a school teacher or flipping burgers. When I was at KFC, again, we tried to motivate our people, not by giving them things, but by taking pride in their job, doing the little things, and then complimenting them. Hey, you know what? The way you wrapped that chicken sandwich, that was good. It kept the heat in and the food fresh and everything else. I like the way you cleaned that fryer. I don't have to worry about the sediment in that oil causing a fire or removing the quality of the taste from the chicken and the way you bread it. Hey, you know what? That's A1. And again, that's how you do it. You build people's self-esteem by throwing them little pebbles of compliments at a time, and before you know it, you have this big tsunami of motivation and emotion. Again, but if you have chaos and you have other things like that, then what you don't have is a team attitude. And you need a team attitude in everything to succeed. As a football coach, and again, I failed to mention that I have my own team, the Pittsburgh Colts. I've been able to place 32 guys on pro rosters since 1979. And that's a nice thing to be able to tell players when I'm trying to recruit them. I played at Pitt on a national championship team. I didn't start. I didn't play a lot. My job was to prepare the defense. I was a scout team player. And I took as much pride in that job as the players did that lettered, but we all got rings because we all contributed. And I was never thought of as a second-class citizen in that environment by any of my coaches, Coach Majors, Coach Sherrill. And again, we've had reunions, and when we get together, we won a national championship, but we never thought we did anything special. Okay, we're just a group of guys having fun that all work together and pull together. And that's what we have to do in this district. We're not getting that kind of message from Dan Deasy. What we're getting is, I got this money, here's where I'm going to spend it, and you're going to like it. Well, guess what, Dan? I don't like it. That's why I'm running against you. And that's why I'm out every day knocking on doors, giving them my message, my ideas, and your voting record, which stinks.
And I got a question for you. So he's been in the district for, you were saying, for 12, 14 years. And what made you decide after a decade you're going to run against him? And why is he keep getting reelected if he is doing such a terrible job?
Okay, I'll handle the first part. During the pandemic, when I'm watching TV and I'm seeing that they're picking winners and losers, big box stores, we need them open. But the mom and pop stores, we're going to crush you with all these they weren't even laws. They were suggestions that you have to have plexiglass. And I'm sitting there and I'm going, I remember this from before. It was in the late 80s during the HIV. The same things that Fauci was saying about the COVID pandemic is the same thing he said about the HIV virus, that it was airborne, that you could collect it off a surface, and it was just the same playbook. And then this time they ramp it up with, we have essential workers and non-essential workers. We have heroes and we have people that are going to kill grandma. Well, the only people that killed grandma or grandpa or anybody were the politicians, again, who shoved them into them hospitals and knew that they were the most vulnerable. I had, driving for Lyft and Uber, I picked up many nurses and even phlebotomists from time to time. They knew a lot about this virus 3 months into it. They knew that it was lethal to people with diabetes. They knew that it was lethal to people that had respiratory conditions or were over the age of 65 and had heart conditions. They knew this, okay? Then they shut down all the elective surgeries. What are elective surgeries? Cancer patients, transplants. What happened to those people? They started piling up. The body started piling up. Did they take any responsibility for it? No, they did not. All right, so it was during the pandemic. If you have to put food on the table to feed your family, you're an essential worker. And then what they did with the schools. Again, my background as a child care specialist, red flags were going off. This is not good for the kids. This is going to have residual effects that are going to manifest themselves 2 or 3 years down the road. What are we seeing now? We're seeing suicides, drug addictions, so many different things that are a direct result of that. Dan Deasy's been able to stay in office because nobody has had the courage to do what I'm doing, which is to go out there and not be afraid to lose. I'm not afraid to lose. I'm very willing and ready and able to accept success, but I'm not afraid to lose. So people's opinions don't deter me if they're not for me. If they tell me they're a friend of Dan Deasy and they're going to vote for him, I'm fine with that, because I'm reaching too many people that are telling me they're not going to vote for him. So I just keep going. Again, I have powered through everything. A lot of people don't know this. I have AFib, an irregular heartbeat. I've died 3 times. I'm still here. I spent one of them times in a coma for 15 hours. Went on the journey, and the good Lord sent me back. Again, I seen the bright light, but he said, nope, it's time for you to go back. So I went back. And again, I felt that he sent me back for a reason. That reason was to take care of my mom before she passed. But he's kept me here, so there must be some other things. This could be one. I'm not saying it is, but it could be. So I'm too motivated. I'm a God-fearing man. I'm a Christian, but I'm a tough Christian. I'm confrontational. But again, all of those things, the makeup of my personality and everything else that I've done in my life, this is just, again, something that I think needs to be done. And I'm going to do it. And again, I'm going to do it with all the people's help. So Dan is one because this is predominantly a Democrat voting bloc. And he's part of the ruling class. He thinks he's entitled to win. Okay, he thinks he's entitled to win. But I haven't seen him do anything out there relative to trying to generate, any more votes. So the pandemic, the fact that nobody has ever run against him, and the fact that I'm not afraid to lose, and I'm ready for a straight out fight, brawl to win this. I don't think that he is. And again, he can act nice and everything else, but when you look at them votes, that's not a nice person. A good person, a Christian person, somebody that cares about people is not going to make those types of votes and sell out by making them votes so that he can be reelected. That's all he's doing.
And how can people help you? If people see this video and they're excited to support you, what can they do to help your campaign?
Well, again, every campaign needs money. And again, we have a Facebook page, broskyforchange.com, and you can go to there, and there's a donate button, and it's as low as $25 up to $6,000 if you'd like. Again, we've been getting a lot of donations in the $50 to $150 range, but we need more money for that. I would also like to have some volunteers to either do some door knocking with me, or more importantly, on November the 8th, particularly in those areas that I've been to, Kraft and Ingram, Sheridan, where I don't really have a base of friends or family. I would need volunteers to work the polls that day, just to, again, remind the people to hand out the flyer that I have. Here's the guy running against Dan Deasy. Here's Deasy's voting record. Here's what this guy stands for. Let's vote for change. So, the 2 areas, donations, as well as working the polls, or signs, if people would like to, display my sign, in their yards would be nice. But but broskyforchange.com, is where you want to go for any of those
Okay, and they
efforts.
can contact you through the website?
Yeah, you can contact me through the website. And again, they go on the website and ask me direct questions, and we'll get back to it. What I've been seeing a lot of, not a lot, but there are people that they seem to visit all the websites and they'll make derogatory comments thinking they're going to stick. Listen, I'm no angel, all right? But I'm not going to be all things to all people. But you can't make life's decisions without having lived life's experience. I've done that. I've had successes. I've had failures. I also believe this, that if society is going to survive, we need to have a moral understanding of right and wrong. Voting against a bill for people that abuse the elderly in any shape, size, or form is not a moral vote. Anyone voting to let a boy compete against a girl in sports, which is unfair on so many levels, is not a good moral decision. So those are the things that I stand for, and those are the things that I'm going to be right on. But like any human being, I have my faults. But again, I believe in redemption and second chances for everybody.
Well, thank you so much for coming on, and this has been great. Do you have anything else you want to add?
Just want to close with this. If you care about young people, you can't vote for Dan Deasy. If you care about the old people, you can't vote for Dan Deasy. If you care about the police and law and order, you can't vote for Dan Deasy. If you care about inflation and jobs, you can't vote for Dan Deasy. Bottom line is, it's time for a change. Vote for me. If you believe in all of those things, then if you vote for Dan Deasy, you're going to get the same old stuff.
Thank you, Ed.